Welcome to TechSphere. Today, we're going to be tackling how to deal with things outside your control on a dev project. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with your friends. Now, let's get into it. We've all been there, right? Everything's humming along, you're in the groove, and then bam, you hit a snag. And it's not a bug in your code. It's not even a technical challenge you can solve. It's a third-party dependency that throws a wrench in the works.
Ah, yes, the infamous third-party dependency. The silent partner that can either make or break your project.
Exactly. And to kind of paint a picture for our listeners, think about this. You're working on a website, backend is solid, your code is clean, but you're waiting on those web-ready graphics from a designer. Revision after revision, the deliverables just aren't meeting the specifications, deadlines are looming, and you're starting to feel the pressure.
It's a classic scenario, and one that highlights the double-edged sword of third-party dependencies. On one hand, they offer incredible benefits, specialized skills, efficiency, access to tools you might not have in-house. But on the other hand, they introduce a level of uncertainty that can be incredibly challenging to manage.
Okay, so let's unpack this, starting with the elephant in the room, estimation. When you're relying on external factors, how can you accurately predict a project's timeline?
Well, it's one of the biggest headaches developers face. And it's not just about the project deadline itself. Delays from third parties also have a ripple effect on your own workload and potentially billable hours. You're essentially trying to predict the future, and unfortunately, even the most sophisticated project management tools. They can't account for every variable, especially when those variables are outside your direct control.
It's like that sinking feeling you get when you realize you're stuck waiting for something completely out of your hands. And it's not just the time lost, it's the mental energy drain, too.
Absolutely. And here's where it gets even more complicated. From the client's perspective, they don't necessarily care about the internal intricacies of your development process or the challenges you're facing with a third party. They want the project delivered on time and within budget, regardless of the obstacles.
Which often puts developers in a tough spot, right?
You're juggling the client's expectations, your own workload, and the unpredictable nature of third-party dependencies. It's easy to feel like you're constantly putting out fires.
That's why setting clear expectations and boundaries from the very beginning is absolutely crucial. It's about finding that delicate balance between being a team player and protecting your own time, sanity, and ultimately the success of the project.
So how do we walk that tightrope? Where do we draw the line between going above and beyond for a client and being taken advantage of when things go wrong with a third party? That's a question every developer grapples with. And there's no one-size-fits-all answer. It often depends on the specific situation, the nature of the project, and your relationship with both the client and the third party. But here's the key: proactive communication.
Proactive communication. Let's dig into that. What does that look like in practice, especially when we're dealing with those gray areas? Like in our designer example, do you fix those imperfect graphics yourself to save time? Or do you stand your ground and insist on the agreed-upon deliverables?
That's where things can get tricky. It's about assessing the severity of the issue, understanding the potential impact on the project timeline, and then having open and honest conversations with all parties involved. Sometimes a quick fix on your end might be the most efficient solution, but it's important to document that extra effort and communicate it transparently to the client and the designer.
So transparency is key, even when it comes to those little things that might seem insignificant at the time.
Absolutely. And if it's a major issue, a deviation from the agreed-upon scope of work, then you need to push back. This is where that solid contract comes into play. It's your safety net. Refer to the specific clauses that outline roles, responsibilities, and deliverables.
So it's not just about having a contract, it's about knowing what's in it and using it as a tool for communication and accountability.
Precisely. And sometimes pushing back might involve offering alternative solutions, suggesting a revised timeline, or even negotiating a change in scope. It's about finding a path forward that works for everyone while still protecting your own interests and ensuring the quality of the project.
It sounds like mastering this art of managing third-party relationships requires a whole new skill set. It's not just about technical prowess anymore. It's about communication, negotiation, and maybe even a bit of diplomacy.
You hit the nail on the head. In a world that's increasingly reliant on external services and APIs, these so-called soft skills are becoming just as important as technical expertise for developers.
So what advice would you give to developers who are struggling to navigate these complex dynamics? What are some tangible strategies they can implement to avoid those third-party pitfalls?
Well, first and foremost, don't underestimate the power of due diligence. Before you even engage a third party, thoroughly vet them. Research their reputation, look at their track record, read reviews from other developers, and if possible, talk to people who have worked with them directly.
So it's like doing your homework before making a big purchase. You don't just buy the first shiny object you see. You compare prices, read reviews, and make an informed decision.
Exactly. And this research should extend beyond just their technical capabilities. Pay attention to their communication style, their responsiveness, and their overall approach to project management. These factors can be just as critical as their technical skills when it comes to ensuring a smooth collaboration.
And once you've chosen a third party, what are some key steps to set the stage for a successful partnership?
Clear communication from the outset is paramount. Make sure you have a comprehensive contract that clearly outlines the scope of work, deliverables, timelines, and payment terms. Don't be afraid to ask questions, clarify any ambiguities, and make sure everyone is on the same page before you even start writing a single line of code.
So it's all about setting those expectations up front, making sure everyone is aligned, and having that contract as a reference point throughout the project lifecycle.
Absolutely. And remember, communication shouldn't stop once the project is underway. Regular check-ins, status updates, and proactive problem solving can go a long way in preventing those little issues from snowballing into major roadblocks.
It sounds like building a strong working relationship with your third party is just as important as managing the technical aspects of the project.
Precisely, it's about fostering a sense of partnership where both sides feel valued, heard, and respected. And that goes a long way in mitigating those out-of-control scenarios.
So how can we cultivate that kind of relationship? What are some practical tips for communication and collaboration?
Well, think of it like building any strong relationship. It requires open communication, clear expectations, and a willingness to work together to solve problems. Start by establishing a clear channel for communication, whether it's email, project management software, or regular video calls.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to pick up the phone and have a conversation when needed. Sometimes that personal touch can make all the difference.
Absolutely. And when you're communicating, be clear, concise, and respectful. Avoid technical jargon that might confuse non-technical stakeholders. And most importantly, listen actively. Really try to understand their perspective, their challenges, and their priorities.
That active listening piece is so crucial, especially when tensions are high or deadlines are looming. It's easy to get caught up in your own stress and forget that the other side might be feeling that same pressure.
And remember, it's not always about placing blame or pointing fingers. When things go wrong, which they inevitably will, focus on finding solutions together. Frame the conversation as a collaborative effort to overcome the obstacle and keep the project moving forward.
So it's about shifting the mindset from us versus them to we're in this together, which makes sense because in the end, everyone wants the project to succeed.
Exactly. And that shared goal can be a powerful unifying force.
Now let's talk about something that can be really tough for developers: saying no.
Yeah.
We're often conditioned to be problem solvers, to go the extra mile to make things work. But sometimes saying no is the best way to protect ourselves and the project from scope creep and burnout. How do we navigate that delicate balance?
It's a skill that takes practice and a bit of courage. But remember, saying no isn't about being uncooperative or unhelpful. It's about setting healthy boundaries, managing expectations, and ensuring that you can deliver your best work without compromising your own well-being.
But how do you actually say no without damaging the relationship or appearing difficult?
First, acknowledge the request and try to understand the underlying need. Then clearly and respectfully explain your reasoning for why you can't fulfill it. Maybe you don't have the bandwidth, maybe it's outside the agreed upon scope, or maybe it would compromise the quality of other deliverables.
So it's not just about saying no, it's about providing context and offering alternatives whenever possible.
Exactly. For example, you could say, I understand this is important to you and I wish I could take it on right now. However, given my current workload and the project deadlines, I wouldn't be able to give it the attention it deserves. Perhaps we could explore alternative solutions and then offer some options.
That approach makes it clear that you're not just dismissing their request. You're genuinely trying to find a workable solution.
Precisely. And sometimes saying no might involve negotiating a revised timeline, adjusting the scope of work, or even suggesting another resource who might be better suited for the task.
It sounds like the key is to be assertive, but also solution-oriented. You're protecting your own interests, but you're also demonstrating your commitment to finding a path forward that benefits everyone.
Exactly. And this ties back to the importance of having that clear contract in place. It provides a framework for these discussions, a point of reference when negotiating scope changes, or addressing issues that fall outside the agreed-upon deliverables.
So the contract isn't just a legal document, it's also a tool for communication and collaboration throughout the project lifecycle.
Precisely. And speaking of tools, there are many resources available to help developers navigate the complexities of third-party management. From project management software to online communities and industry forums, there's a wealth of information and support out there.
So if you're feeling overwhelmed or unsure how to handle a particular situation, don't hesitate to reach out to your network, consult online resources, or seek guidance from more experienced developers. You don't have to figure this out alone.
And remember, every challenge you encounter, every obstacle you overcome is an opportunity to learn, grow, and become a more resilient and effective developer. These experiences, as frustrating as they might be in the moment, are invaluable for building your skills and shaping your approach to project management.
That's a great perspective. It's easy to get bogged down in the negativity of those out-of-control moments, but reframing them as learning experiences can help us stay positive and motivated. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about the bigger picture. We've discussed the practicalities of managing third-party relationships, but what does this all mean in the context of the evolving software development landscape?
That's a fascinating question. As software development becomes increasingly reliant on external services, APIs, and open source libraries, the ability to manage those dependencies effectively is no longer a nice-to-have skill. It's becoming a core competency for developers.
It's like we're moving away from the image of the lone wolf developer coding in isolation and toward a more collaborative, interconnected model of software creation.
Precisely. And this shift has profound implications for how we approach education training and even hiring in the tech industry.
So if I'm a developer who wants to thrive in this new landscape, what should I be focusing on?
First and foremost, cultivate those soft skills. Communication, negotiation, conflict resolution, and relationship management. These are becoming just as important as technical expertise. And don't be afraid to step outside your comfort zone and learn about things like contracts, service-level agreements, and the legal aspects of software development.
It's about becoming a well-rounded professional who can navigate the technical and the interpersonal aspects of software development with equal skill and confidence.
Exactly, and never stop learning. The tech landscape is constantly evolving, new tools and services are emerging all the time. And the best developers are the ones who are adaptable, curious, and always eager to expand their knowledge base.
So it's not just about mastering the technology of today. It's about anticipating the challenges of tomorrow and equipping ourselves with the skills and mindset to thrive in a world of constant change.
Absolutely. And that brings us to another critical point, risk management. As our reliance on third parties grows, so too does our exposure to potential risks. Security breaches, data leaks, service outages, compliance issues, you name it.
So it's not enough to just choose a third party based on their technical capabilities or their price point. We need to factor in those risk elements as well.
Precisely. And that requires a proactive approach to risk assessment, mitigation, and contingency planning.
So how do we go about assessing those risks? What are some red flags to watch out for when evaluating a potential third-party vendor?
Well, first and foremost, look at their security posture. Do they have a robust security framework in place? Are they compliant with relevant industry standards and regulations? Do they have a history of data breaches or security incidents? These are all critical questions to ask up front.
And it's not just about their security practices. It's also about their overall track record, reliability, and stability.
Right.
If their services are prone to outages or disruptions, that could have a significant impact on your project.
Absolutely. Look at their uptime guarantees, their service level agreements, and the response times to incidents. And don't be afraid to ask for references from other clients. Hearing about their experiences firsthand can give you valuable insights into the vendor's reliability and responsiveness.
So it's like doing your due diligence, but on a deeper level. You're not just looking at their technical capabilities. You're also evaluating their risk profile and their ability to handle those unexpected situations. That can throw a project off track.
Precisely. And this brings us to the importance of contingency planning. What happens if a third-party service goes down? What's your backup plan? Do you have alternative solutions in place?
It's like having an insurance policy for your project. You hope you never have to use it, but it's there to protect you in case something goes wrong.
Exactly. And developing a solid contingency plan doesn't have to be a complex or time-consuming process. It can be as simple as identifying alternative vendors, having backup systems in place, or establishing clear communication protocols for handling incidents.
It sounds like the key takeaway here is to be proactive, not reactive. Don't wait for something to go wrong before thinking about how you'll handle it. Anticipate the potential risks, have a plan in place. And you'll be much better equipped to navigate those out-of-control moments.
Well said. And this proactive mindset extends beyond just risk management. It's about embracing a culture of continuous learning, adaptation, and collaboration.
It's about recognizing that in the world of software development, the only constant is change. And the most successful developers are the ones who can embrace that change, learn from their experiences, and constantly evolve their skills and approach to stay ahead of the curve.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And I think that's a great segue into our final thoughts on this topic.
Indeed. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the practicalities of communication and contract management to the broader implications of this evolving landscape. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are some key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, first and foremost, remember that dealing with things outside your control is an inherent part of software development. It's not something to fear or avoid. It's something to embrace as a challenge and an opportunity for growth.
It's about shifting our mindset from feeling like a victim of circumstance to becoming a master of adaptation.
Exactly. And that mastery comes from building strong relationships with your third parties, setting clear expectations, having solid contracts in place, and developing those all-important soft skills that will help you navigate the inevitable bumps in the road.
And never underestimate the power of communication, both proactive and reactive. Keep those lines of communication open, be transparent, be respectful, and focus on finding solutions together.
And don't be afraid to say no when necessary. It's not about being difficult. It's about setting healthy boundaries and ensuring that you can deliver your best work without compromising your own well-being.
And finally, remember that you're not alone in this journey. There's a whole community of developers out there who are facing these same challenges, learning from their experiences and sharing their knowledge and insights. Don't hesitate to tap into that collective wisdom, seek guidance from mentors, and contribute to the conversation.
Because in the end, it's about collaboration, support, and continuous learning. And those are the keys to not just surviving, but thriving in this exciting and ever-evolving world of software development.
Well said. And on that note, let's wrap up this episode of TechSphere. A huge thank you to our expert guest for sharing their wisdom and insights today.
It was my pleasure.
It's been a fascinating conversation. I feel like we've just scratched the surface of this topic. But as we wrap up this episode of TechSphere, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier. The idea that mastering the art of managing third-party relationships might just be the most crucial skill for developers in the years to come.
I stand by that statement. Think about it. The software development landscape is shifting rapidly. We're moving toward a world where almost every application relies on a complex web of external services, APIs, libraries, and frameworks.
It's like the days of building everything from scratch are fading away. And the ability to integrate, manage, and orchestrate these external components is becoming paramount.
Exactly. And that's why those soft skills, communication, negotiation, risk assessment, relationship building, are no longer optional. They're essential. They're the tools that allow us to navigate this increasingly interconnected world and deliver successful projects, even when we're relying on factors outside our direct control.
So for our listeners who are just starting out in their development careers,
Yeah.
or for those who are looking to level up their skills, what advice would you give them? Where should they focus their energy?
First and foremost, embrace the mindset of a lifelong learner. The tech industry is constantly evolving, and the most successful developers are the ones who are adaptable, curious, and always eager to expand their knowledge base.
It's not just about mastering a specific programming language or framework. It's about developing a foundational understanding of software architecture design principles and the broader ecosystem of tools and services that are available.
Precisely. And that foundation will serve you well as you navigate the complexities of third-party dependencies. Because when you understand the bigger picture, when you can see how all the pieces fit together, you're better equipped to make informed decisions about which third parties to choose, how to integrate them effectively, and how to manage those relationships for optimal outcomes.
So it's about seeing the forest for the trees. It's about understanding the interconnectedness of the software development ecosystem and recognizing that success often hinges on our ability to collaborate, effectively communicate clearly, and manage those external factors that are inevitably part of the process.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to seek out mentors, join online communities, attend industry events, immerse yourself in the world of software development, and learn from the experiences of others.
Because we're all in this together. The challenges we face, the lessons we learn, the triumphs and the failures, they're all part of a shared journey. And by sharing our knowledge, supporting each other, and embracing a culture of continuous learning, we can collectively elevate the craft of software development and build amazing things together.
Well said. I couldn't agree more.
And on that note, it's time to wrap up this deep dive into managing the uncontrollable in development projects. We hope you found it insightful, informative, and maybe even a little bit inspiring. A huge thank you to our expert guests for sharing their wisdom and experience today.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And to all our listeners out there, thanks for tuning in to TechSphere. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with your friends. And keep building amazing things.